Teaching a foreign language can be a lot easier when you have the competencies or skills in order to impact right. My name is Mr. William, and I am a foreign language teacher. I specialize in teaching English, French, and Spanish as second language. In today's webinar, I will be teaching you all the tips and tricks in order to become a qualified and good foreign language teacher. Without further ado, let's begin. Today, I will be teaching you how you can teach a foreign language effectively. Without further ado, let's begin. So today you will learn how to teach communication without grammar from your very first lesson. And also, you will learn how to encourage speaking from day one. You will also be learning how to immerse learning in listening exercises. You will learn how to teach vocabulary in context, and also you will learn how to integrate the four language skills in your lesson. So from the very first day of your teaching, you should learn to start your lesson with conversation. You must introduce the language you are teaching from the very first day. Do not panic or do not be worried if the learners will understand what you are saying. So, for example, supposing you come to the class for the first time and you are to introduce the lesson. You can start with a brief introduction by saying bonjour, and bonjour simply means good day. Okay, so when you say bonjour, you can now introduce yourself by saying je m'appelle, madame, plus name. You see, so this is actually one way you can actually start using the language in the classroom. Remember, when you use this information or when you communicate with the language you are teaching, you must ensure that you write it on the board so that your learners will understand and see what you are saying. And it is very important that you use language structures. Like I showed you here, you can say, je m'appelle, madame, plus the name. So they will know that when I say, or when one say, je m'appelle, madame, or je m'appelle, monsieur, the next thing that follows is the person's name. Do you understand? Good. So this is how to start using the language from the very first day. Now, what if it doesn't have to do with something that requires writing? You can as well gesturize by using your hands and your facial expression. You must keep the information short and simple. Very important. So that is one way to start the lesson with the language you are speaking. You must learn to give the instructions in brief and short way. For example, you can say prends, which is take, and you gesturize by stretching your hand with the object you're giving the person. When you stretch your hand, the person will understand that you are saying take, and the person will also demonstrate by stretching his or her hand to pick it up from you. The next time you say prends, the person will recall the action and then stretch his or her hand to pick it from you. So gesturizing is another best way to help learners understand the meaning behind the word you are saying. Next is to encourage speaking from the day one. And like I said before, you must start it even at the beginner's level. Do not be worried if they will understand, but use simple structure and repetition. The more you keep repeating that word, they will remember and use it among themselves. Supposing you are teaching instruction in the classroom. So, how do you intend to do this? What if you look at getting pictures of actions, like, for example, couper, which is cut to cut? You can get a picture of someone cutting a piece of paper and you write under the picture couper. Or let's say you want to teach them how to use the word paste, which is coller, right? So you can get a picture of a pupil pasting something and then you write the word coller under it. So when you use pictures to bring the word you are saying into life, it helps the learners to remember the word through the image you have used. So one way you can also help learners to remember the words is by using images. Okay. So another way to also encourage speaking from the day one is by doing pair work. So, for example, you can ask the learners to work in pairs or to demonstrate a role play by using question and answer or a guided dialogue. Your objective is to build confidence and not to criticize their work. Okay? So you need to keep them motivated. Now, having said this, we are going to look at one other skill that you can learn in order to become a foreign language teacher. And one of these is immerse learners in listening. Now, at this point, you want to include the language skills in your lesson, which is the listening exercise. And one way I do this is by cropping a part of a short animation that aligns with the target language level. So if you are working with A1 students, you must use videos that aligns with the level you are teaching. And when you do this, you mustn't take all the cartoon or all the animation. You can only crop out the place you want to use in helping them to listen and comprehend what you want them to know. So you can go online on YouTube and look for short videos, listen to the video, and make sure the transcription aligns with what you are teaching. It could also be an audio, a song, or even a demonstration you performed with a friend or someone. Listening helps with pronunciation. When they listen to authentic materials or documents, it helps them to understand how the language is used by native speakers. Do not play a very long document. The shorter, the better. Next, next, next is teaching vocabulary in context. Always teach new words in sentences. Do not give them a list of words. Use visuals, gestures, emojis, or real objects. Let's take an example. Supposing you want to teach your students how to maybe adhere to instructions. You could maybe, let's say, for example, let me give you an example here. Supposing your the language speech for that day, which is the topic, is let's say respecter, ou bien, or it could be parler des instructions which is to talk about instructions, right? So for this topic, I can actually think, first of all, of which um, which scenarios do I want to use? What are the illustrations? What are the different tools I need in order to help them understand how instructions are made? So basically, I can use a setting like cooking, right? Children wants to cook. They want to know how meals are made. So for example, I can put for materials, I can think of using stuff like maybe um, the word cuts, right? So I can get bowl, I can get a bowl, I can get a bowl, right? A knife, right? I can get I can get a blender, right? So stuff like this. And the purpose behind listing these materials is to look at the action that can be performed using these materials. So when you're done with this, you think of the verbs you want to use in performing this action on the materials. So you can think of using couper or coupe, which is cut. You can think of using écraser, which is to blend, écrase. You can think of lave, which is wash. You see? So you have to look at the action word that can align with the materials you are using. Now, when you have listed all your verbs, you want to now think of how to help them communicate using the verbs and the materials, okay, or the ingredients you have for this topic, okay? And you want to also teach them the tense of verb used, the tense of verb, the tense of verb used in communicating, right? In communicating. You want to think of, so for this one here, we use the imperative, the present imperative. So here you have the present imperative, which is used in order to communicate these actions, okay? And you must give them the language structure. Remember, you must give them the language structure. The language structure is what helps your student to remember the pattern of communicating an instruction. When you give them the language structure, it helps them to practice when they are alone without your presence. Okay, so that is one way to teach this kind of topic. You must make sure you prepare your work and keep it short. Now, there is something I want to teach you here. Supposing you want to teach about fruits. You cannot give them a list of fruits. Instead of just writing apple, which is palm, you can make a sentence by saying j'aime la pomme. Okay, you can say something like j'aime, right? J'aime plus fruit, right? This will help them to know when you say j'aime, which is I like, the next thing to say is the fruit. So the students will learn how to say j'aime la pomme. You see? So the language structure helps them to understand how to communicate instead of giving them a bunch of words, okay? Or you want to teach them how to say, I like to eat. You can say, j'aime manger plus fruit. You see, this will help them to say what they like to eat. Do you understand? So this is how to teach a language speech, the act of language, instead of giving them a list of vocabulary. When you give them a list of vocabulary, they will not be able to communicate. They will only cram the words, and a that is not the pattern of teaching a foreign language. Integrate the four skills. Balance your listening, speaking, reading, and writing in each lesson. You mustn't teach all the four skills in one lesson, but you can split them, and do not try to teach all the lesson in one period. Remember, it is just 40 minutes or 30, right? So you need to split it and ensure you take it bit by bit. Do you understand? You can also use short dialogue, right? A question and answer to help them understand um, the topic. Let me give you an example of how I help my students to create the question themselves and also to provide the response. Supposing I'm teaching a topic and I want them to make a question, I will teach them how to use est-ce que, and I will tell them that est-ce que is used to confirm an information. So when you say est-ce que, the next thing you want to put is the conjugation, right? Conjugation. So est-ce que plus conjugation plus complements. And when you give them this language structure, it helps them to practice all by themselves without your aid, right? And now I can give them an example. Est-ce que tu viens aujourd'hui? Est-ce que tu viens aujourd'hui? Right? Now, you see? So here we have the est-ce que and we have the tu viens, which is the verb I introduced in the lesson, right? And aujourd'hui, which is today, is the complement to support the information. When you teach your learners this way, it helps them to make questions all by themselves following the language structure. The language structure is like a map that helps your learners to work as an independent student. So this is one way you can help your students to become an independent learner. Next here is to integrate the four skills. And one way you can do this is by using games, quizzes, songs, and storytelling. As a teacher, you must be very creative. For example, I prepare natural songs all by myself or original songs based on the lesson. I keep my songs brief and short, and I also include Kahoot games, Quizlet, Duolingo Classroom, flashcards, and other tools in order to keep them engaged and motivated. You must use the target language as much as possible. It is your responsibility to use the target language as much as possible. Speak mostly in the foreign language, even for classrooms instruction. Scaffold meaning with gestures, visualize, and repetition instead of translation. Keep the information short and brief. It will help them to remember what you are teaching them. Give regular feedback. A teacher must be soft, mild, and gentle. Do not correct them in a harsh way. Always use positive reinforcement like good job, well done, you can do better, nice try, instead of saying that is wrong. Remember, when you are gentle and mild, your learners will be willing to approach you and express how they feel about the lesson. You must keep them motivated. You must help your students notice language pattern. So the language structure becomes an important tool in helping them to speak right. When you teach the lesson with the support of the language structure, it helps them to work individually without your help. And next here is to make sure that you provide them with all the necessary resources or materials they need. And do not forget to also include songs, festivals, food, gestures, and tradition in the lesson. When you do not have all the tools to teach the lesson, you can keep the lesson pending and go for the ones with less material in it. Do not teach a lesson when you do not have all the tools you need to teach it. You will not be able to achieve your objective. And your target is to help them appreciate the language and use it in a positive way. So as a teacher, you must make sure your learning comes to life. Thank you. And at this point, I have this assignment for you. It is a 15 minutes assignment exercise. You are to prepare a mini lesson plan applying at least 5 of the tips discussed. Your plan should include what students will learn, which is your objective, the target language level, is it A1 beginner, A2 intermediate, B1, B2, C1, or C2. Think of the materials you want to use and also the steps in the language. Prepare this exercise and send it to me on williamsnuche@gmail.com. I'm going to drop my handle here so that you can send it directly to me, williamsnuche@gmail.com, and I will reply to you as soon as I get to review it. Okay, send it to my mail and I will go through it and I'll provide you with the feedback. I will also be sharing your work with your peers on my website so that everyone can see what you have done, so you can learn from others and they can also learn from you as well. Now the question is, what would you want me to teach next when I come? What would you want me to teach in my next webinar? Before that, this is a sample of the assignment I just gave you. You can just pause the video right now and look at these steps and do yours like this or something similar to this. But then I have 3 options for you to pick one. Here, what would you want me to teach next in my next webinar? Drop your answer in the comment section. The highest votes gets the next topic. Number 1, lesson planning for language teachers. Number 2, classroom techniques for language teaching. And number 3, teaching vocabulary and grammar in context. You are to pick one among these options, and the highest vote will go with this topic for the next webinar. Thank you so much and see you in the next one. Bye!